In this video, I'm going to show you how to collect information from external apps and import that information into the system. So for this example, we're going to be using webinar signups and creating new contacts within the system from those webinar signups. So we're going to come here and we're going to create a new Zap by clicking Create New Zap. And this time for my trigger, I'm going to use my webinar hosting platform. So in this example, I am using GoToWebinar, but you are going to use whatever webinar hosting service you use. And I've already connected my GoToWebinar account. So you would go through the setup process for whichever webinar hosting platform you are using. And then I'm going to choose my trigger event. And in this case, I'm going to say a new registrant. So I want my new registrants to be created as new contacts within my system. So once I've done that, I can go ahead and hit continue. And I can configure this to choose which webinar. So I've got my sample webinar that I'm just going to be using for this example. I'm going to say continue. And then I want to test this trigger. So I'm going to test the trigger. And I have already signed up one registrant, so it's got that information over here for who that registrant is, what they've signed up for, all of that information is there. So I can go ahead and continue with the selected record. Now what I want to do is go and search for Funnelr. There it is. And what I want to do is create a new contact in the system. So I'm going to select my action event and I'm going to create or update a Well, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to create or update an order. Oh, not a user, sorry, not an order. All right, so now I've got that. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. And now I can select the information that I need to create within the system. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to select the correct information. So the first name, the last name. So I'm just matching this information. And their email. So it's using the test data that I put into the webinar hosting. And that's pretty much all I need. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. All right, so now I can go ahead and test this step. So testing that step is going to create this user as a user in my system. All right, so now that that is done, I can go ahead and publish this Zap. And you'll see that through that test, if I navigate back to my system and I come here to my users, my contacts, and now you'll see that Dewey Duck has been created as a new user in the system. And I can actually come into Dewey here and I can go and assign him some lists and tags and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new list and I'm going to say, go to webinar as a list. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to select that so it's assigned to him. I'm going to do the same thing for tags. I'm going to give him the go to webinar tag and select that. Then I'm going to go ahead and save those changes. And I want to go back to Zapier and I want to update that Zap so that anytime someone registers for that webinar, they also get assigned to that list and that tag. So I'm going to navigate back to Zapier. And I'm going to go ahead and edit this Zap by clicking on Edit Zap on the top right-hand side, excuse me. And then I am going to come here to my Funnelr options and I'm going to scroll down. And what I want to do is add them to the list, which is the GoToWebinar list. And I want to add them to a tag, which is going to be that GoToWebinar tag. Then I'm going to say continue and I'm going to publish those changes. This is going to be version 2 and I'm going to say publish. So now I can go ahead and try that out. So I'm going to navigate to my webinar registration page and I'm going to enter some information in here. So we're going to go ahead and call this Boo Berry. Well, we're going to say boo@demo.com and then she can go ahead and register for this webinar. All right, so now she's registered for that webinar. If I navigate back to my system and I come back to my users, I'm just going to have to wait a second and wait for that Zap to actually run before that information is then put into the system. So we're just going to wait a couple seconds. All right, and you'll see that Booberry has then been added to the system. So if I click in there, you'll see that she's also been assigned to those lists and tags. So that is how you can use Zapier to import information into the system and automate things that we otherwise don't automate within the system. Now, there is one more thing that I want to show you before we end this training series, and that is how to use filters in the trigger action itself. I'll see you there.